Welcome to the Roy Morgan Weekly Update. The latest Roy Morgan survey on voting intention shows a swing away from the government, with the ALP down 2% to 51.5%, now just ahead of the coalition on 48.5% on a two-party preferred basis. If a federal election were held now, the Albanese government would likely be re-elected, but forced into minority government with the support of minor parties and independents. The swing away from the government was seen across all states, with the largest swing to the coalition in Victoria. Last week, Victoria's mid-year financial report, which was released after the Dunkley by-election, showed Victoria's government debt had increased by around $12 billion to more than $126 billion, with that number set to double in the next 3 years, according to global ratings agency S&P. Government confidence was virtually unchanged this week at 81, well below the neutral level of 100, because only 33% of Australians say the country's heading in the right direction, while a majority, 52%, say the country's heading in the wrong direction. There was better news with consumer confidence. ANZ, Roy Morgan Consumer Confidence, increased 1.2 points to 82.2 this week. However, consumer confidence has still spent a record 58 weeks below the level of 85. Although the Reserve Bank haven't increased interest rates since November, the momentum in mortgage stress and cost of living pressures continues unabated, keeping a lid on consumer confidence. Inflation expectations were unchanged at 4.9%, so Australians now expect annual inflation to be 4.9% over the next 2 years. Inflation expectations have been at this level for 4 out of the last 6 weeks since late January, the equal lowest level of inflation expectations for over 2 years since Feb 2022. This week, Roy Morgan released the highly anticipated latest quarterly Most Trusted and Distrusted Brands survey. And we have big news. I can reveal that in the full year, Woolworths has been unseated by Bunnings as Australia's most trusted brand. Bunnings has regained top spot for the first time in more than 3 years, with Woolworths dropping to second place and Coles dropping to fifth place. The decline of the big two supermarkets allowed Aldi to take third spot and Kmart to move up to fourth. The rest of the top 20 remained pretty stable. Other brands to improve their rankings included Toyota, up 1 spot to 7th most trusted, Samsung, up 1 spot to 12th, Bendigo Bank, up 2 spots to 15th, and RAC, up 1 spot to 20th. For more detail and a really in-depth webinar that explores the latest trust and distrust rankings, visit the Roy Morgan website. And also this week, Roy Morgan introduced the inaugural Trusted Agri Business Brand Awards. Elders is Australia's most trusted agri-business brand, alongside other category winners including Zoetis, Bendigo Bank, Incitec Pivot, GrainCorp and Ridley in the inaugural Trusted Agri-Business Brand Awards across a range of important categories. All 8 of the winning brands have demonstrated their market-leading performance by emerging ahead of key competitors in their respective categories. 50 brands were measured as part of the study, involving surveys with more than 1,000 Australian farmers. And finally today, to New Zealand. The second Roy Morgan poll of the new year shows a strengthening in support for the new national-led government. In February, 55% of New Zealanders supported the new government led by the national leader Christopher Luxon. That's up 3.5% since January. Within the government, support for National was 35.5%, ACT 12%, and New Zealand First 7.5%. In February, support for the parliamentary opposition was down 1% to 41%. Support for Labor was 21.5%, the Greens 15.5%, and the Maori Party 4%. The latest Roy Morgan New Zealand government confidence dipped back below the neutral level of 100, down 3 points to 98. Perhaps the biggest news story in New Zealand came in late February when Warner Brothers Discovery announced it would close TV3's News Hub. News Hub is New Zealand's only commercial news broadcaster, competing with public broadcaster TVNZ. The imminent closure of News Hub in the coming months will have an uncertain impact on New Zealand's political scene, with Deputy Prime Minister and New Zealand First Leader Winston Peters describing News Hub's closure as a disaster for the country's democracy. According to Peters, a critical part of democracy and a free society is an independent fourth estate, and I'm concerned about where we're going now, he said. Strong words from the Deputy Prime Minister, and certainly something to keep an eye on in our neighbours across the ditch. And that's a wrap. Thanks for your interest this week in Roy Morgan's latest results, and I'll be back next week to bring you the most up-to-date readings on consumer confidence, inflation expectations, voting intention and unemployment. Thanks for listening.